Don't know why I can't get the thing to go full screen again. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Donald Jones with the National Weather Service. Alongside me, Roger Erickson, Warning Coordination Meteorologist here at the National Weather Service. And over the next little while, we're going to go ahead and talk about our next and what has become a series of freezing rain events that we've had in the last couple of weeks across the area. This one's not expected to be quite as robust as the last one was, but nonetheless, it still could pose some hazards across the area. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. And as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when we did in the upper 70s to maybe even the lower 80s across some parts of the area this afternoon. Then that cold front will approach and move through the area late tonight, and that'll bring us some dramatically cooler temperatures for tomorrow, and obviously that's what may result in our freezing rain. This is taking a look at the front, about where the front is now, or within the next hour or so, located up there towards the Shreveport area. By 6 p.m. this evening, the front's slowly starting to make its way south towards the area. And then by midnight, the front has pretty much bisected the area, basically from southwest to northeast. And then everything pretty much moving through the entire area by about midnight tonight. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at very warm temperatures this afternoon, pretty much very similar to what we've seen the last couple of days, with temperatures in the upper 70s to right around 80. But once that front moves through tonight, we'll be looking at some dramatically cooler temperatures immediately behind the front. You'll notice it as it moves through, because those winds will shift out of the north and temperatures will drop significantly. Overnight lows tonight are expected to be in the mid-30s along the I-10 corridor, and then getting progressively colder as you move further north, with freezing temperatures up towards Alexandria and Fort Polk. And this is where we're going to have the threat for freezing rain tomorrow morning. Like I mentioned, with those winds turning to the north behind that front, in addition to the wind shift, we'll also have a wind increase. And we'll be looking at gusts 15 to 25 miles per hour across southeast Texas on Thursday, and 25 to 35 miles per hour across basically from Lake Charles eastward across Acadiana. So it's going to be very breezy out there during the day on Thursday. What you're looking at here is temperatures on the left and then the precipitation type on the right. And watch that as we go through this progression here. You'll see where we have the switch over from rain to freezing rain as we go into the early morning on Thursday. So we're starting here at midnight tonight. Temperatures across the area are expected to be in the mid-40s as that front initially moves through. And then as we move into the early morning hours, those temperatures drop off even more. They're mid-30s by about 6 a.m. And then this is where we're expecting that freezing rain to begin. Anytime after about 6 a.m., we'll start to see those temperatures drop below freezing. And by 9 a.m., you can see the freezing rain line there start to move into the northern parts of our area as those areas get at or below freezing. And it's going to be a fairly short window for the freezing rain to develop, only about 3 hours or so, which is good news because we won't have to deal with it for too long. And then by about noon, those temperatures will rise above freezing again, and our freezing rain threat will come to an end. But that being said, it's still going to be very cold out there and very windy out there. So basically, these are going to be very close to our high temperatures for the day that you're seeing here on the left, mid to upper 30s. And then factor in a 20, 25 mile per hour gust, and we'll be looking at wind chills in the 20s. So this is another look at basically as far south as we're expecting that freezing rain line to extend, pretty much across bisecting Jasper and Newton counties and Tyler County as well, and then just clipping the northern edges of Beauregard, Allen, and Evangeline, and St. Landry. Boyles repeats, and Vernon will probably see at least some freezing rain, although we're not expecting a whole lot in the way of accumulation. We'll get to that a little more in just a second. Well, actually right now. This is a look at our forecast accumulation for the period here. Again, this is only going to occur probably over about a 3-hour period from about 9 to 12, although we could see freezing rain beginning a little bit earlier than that, as early as possibly 6 a.m., but the majority of it will probably fall between about 9 and 12 p.m. or 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. on Thursday. We're not expecting a whole lot in the way of rainfall accumulation or freezing rain accumulations. In fact, everywhere is expected to be under about 5/100ths of an inch, with you can see there about 3/100ths of an inch expected across Alexandria and DeRidder, a little bit less over in southeast Texas, and basically anything south of that line there is not expected to see anything in the way of freezing rain, so not a whole lot to worry about there. And now we're going to go county by county and take a look at each one of these, each one of the counties and what they can expect. I'll go ahead and let Roger start off with a few of these, just to, he's looking at me like I haven't let him talk yet. So
that's all right. Look, first we're looking at is Tyler County. The timing of what we're looking at for Tyler County, freezing rain threat is going to start sometime after 6 o'clock in the morning Thursday, mainly the northern part of Tyler County, so I would say Woodville northward, and it'll last until noontime, and then the rain should be returning back to liquid form as the temperatures get above freezing. Total ice accumulation is around 2/100ths of an inch. Not enough to cause significant problems, and probably going to be just isolated, elevated roads and bridges will be the main issue. No major power outages expected associated with it. Of course, you got to monitor the local media to see if any school closure decisions. That's not done by us in the weather service. That's the local school officials that make that decision.
And those decisions will probably be made sometime late this evening or at the latest early tomorrow morning. But just based on our last event we had, they'll probably make that decision sometime this evening. So monitor probably your local media outlets for the 10 p.m. news, and you can get that information there. Pretty much just more of the same across Jasper and Newton counties. You're going to see almost the exact same impacts here. Again, ice accumulations generally 2/100ths to 3/100ths from about 9 to noon, maybe a little bit earlier than that, but really not expecting much in the way of significant accumulations.
Mainly Kirbyville northward looks like,
right.
In Jasper County.
Moving further south into southeast Texas across Hardin County, we're not expecting any freezing rain and therefore no impacts across Hardin County. Same for Jefferson and Orange counties as well, not expecting any freezing rain that far south.
So over in Vernon Parish, moving over to Louisiana, the Fort Polk area, timing there is very similar to what we saw for Tyler County, starting around 6 o'clock in the morning. Potential window there from 6 to noon time. Still looking at maybe 2/100 of an inch, enough to cause just the similar situation, the elevated roads and bridges being the significant threat for frozen precipitation.
And the same can pretty much be said for Rapides and Avoyelles parishes as well. Again, you're all kind of in the same latitude there, so impacts are going to be very similar as far as that goes. Moving a little bit further south, again, I said a little bit earlier that, we could have some freezing rain clipping the extreme northern parts of Beauregard Parish. That's basically going to be from DeRidder northward. The timing is going to be about the same, maybe a little bit later, as it might take temperatures further south a little bit longer to cool off, but still could be possible as early as about 6 a.m. And again, with the main threat being from about 9 a.m. to noon. But unlike the parishes further to the north, we're not expecting any ice accumulation anywhere in Beauregard Parish. So we're not expecting any significant impacts or any impacts really across Beauregard Parish. The same can be said from Allen Parish, basically from Oakdale northward, possibility of a little bit of freezing rain, but no accumulation expected across pretty much anywhere in the parish. And Evangeline Parish is basically going to be from Turkey Creek northward. The possibility for some freezing rain, but no accumulation or impacts expected. And St. Landry is, again, going to be the very northern clip, basically from the town of Morrow northward, with no accumulation or impacts expected.
So, now we're looking down along the I-10 corridor. The good news, we got a lot of activities going on. We got the girls' high school basketball playoffs going on here at Burton Coliseum in Lake Charles. So the good news is down here, no freezing rain expected during this event tomorrow.
And that pretty much extends all the way across the I-10 corridor. Jeff Davis, Acadia, Lafayette, none of y'all are expecting anything in the way of freezing rain or impacts for that matter. So you are in pretty good shape. Moving even closer to the coast, still nothing across Iberia, St. Mary, Vermilion, Cameron. All going to be rain. It's still going to be windy and cold, but it's all just going to be a very cold liquid rain. It's going to be a miserable day to be outside. So taking a look at our summary here, we've got foggy conditions continuing along the coast here this afternoon with those warm, moist temperatures and conditions out there right now. By tonight, we'll see the showers and thunderstorms beginning as that front approaches the area, moving through on or about midnight. And then that lingering rain behind the front is what's going to result in this potential for freezing rain during the early morning hours on Tuesday. Regardless, we're not expecting any significant ice accumulation, about 5/100ths of an inch or less, which is really not enough to do anything significant as far as impacts, other than, like Roger mentioned, maybe one or two elevated bridges or roadways might have a little bit of ice on them. But even if that does happen, the bridges may be temporarily closed while they ice them off or put some sand down, but not expecting roadways to remain closed for very long. And again, even if they don't sand them by noon, the temperature should rise above freezing, and any ice that does form is expected to melt by that point forward. Let's see. So we'll look at the temperatures continue to drop through the afternoon on Thursday as the precipitation comes to an end. This is going to be as we get into the evening time. We'll see a hard freeze actually developing for Thursday night into Friday morning. I'll show you. We've got a map here in just a second that'll give you those specific numbers. But we'll have temperatures, especially in northern parts of the area, central Louisiana, in the low to mid 20s, which is going to flirt with a few of our records for this time of year. And then, as we mentioned earlier, for especially marine interests, but even on land, we're going to be looking at very strong winds behind the front. Offshore winds are going to be 30 to 35 knots, which is 40 to 45 miles an hour, right, thereabouts. And then onshore, on land, we'll be looking at gusts to 20 to 25 miles per hour as well. So here's a look at those morning lows for Friday morning. For the Lake Charles and basically the I-10 corridor, we'll be looking at upper 20s, which is still plenty cold enough to, you want to protect your 4Ps, the plants, pets, pipes, and people. And as you go further north, we'll be looking at temperatures in the low to mid 20s, which is actually going to, like I said earlier, flirt with a few of our record lows. Our record low in Alexandria is 25 degrees, which was set back in 1996. So if this forecast verifies, we should break that low temperature. And few other areas here, record low in Lake Charles is 25, Beaumont 28, and Lafayette also 25. So we'll be flirting with those records pretty much all across the area for tomorrow night.
You know, the big question mark, like a lot of times it comes up with these morning temperatures like this. The two factors that can screw up our forecast is going to be the cloud cover and the wind speed. If it stays cloudy, keeps temperatures up. If the winds stay up, that keeps temperatures up as well. So for this to occur, we're expecting the skies to clear out and we're expecting the winds to die down. It is going to be windy tomorrow. That's going to be one of the question marks. And one of the iffy parts of the forecast is how much is the winds going to drop off overnight, Thursday night into Friday, for us to make it all the way down to these current forecast temperatures. If it stays windy, it might be a couple degrees warmer than this. And if it calms out and gets even less wind, then it may even go a degree below what we're looking at here.
Either way, it's still going to be well below our normal low temperatures for this time of year, which are basically in the upper 40s to lower 50s is where we're expected to be for lows this time of year. So a bit unusual for this late in the season to have temperatures this cold, but it could happen. All right. Now go ahead and clear us out of our little PowerPoint presentation. And welcome back. Look, it's us. All right, now we're going to take a few questions that we've got off of Facebook and Twitter earlier this morning. Our first question from Gene is basically wants to know what is the potential for freezing rain in Lake Charles. And for all intents and purposes, we're really not expecting any freezing rain in the Lake Charles area or anywhere along the I-10 corridor for that matter. This is basically going to be more of a central Louisiana event and not expecting anything any further south than, say, extreme northern Beauregard Parish tonight. Now,
I'll say this. The only thing that we're going to be really looking at is, you know, we got this rain coming in. Will it all be dried up by the next freeze for Thursday night, Friday morning?
That's true.
You know, there may be a few wet spots in the roads that could potentially freeze up the elevated roads and bridges, just where the puddles that didn't dry up. There's going to be a lot of traffic, obviously, so I would expect much of the main roads, the interstates, and the main highways are going to be okay, but there may be a back road out there that might have a little ice on it, possibly. But other than that, I don't think we're going to see any problems.
Yeah, but that can happen, even if you don't have rain actually falling that's freezing. If there is any liquid precipitation on the roadways, and we do drop below freezing like we're expected to pretty quickly once the sun goes down Thursday night, that will have the potential to freeze. Let's see. Our next question from Amanda says, I've got a meeting Thursday morning in Alexandria. What time should we expect anything frozen, and will the roads be safe? Well, this is kind of going back to what we were talking about. The main threat is going to be basically from about 9 a.m. to noon. So if you're leaving before then, chances are, even if there is frozen or freezing rain falling, it won't have been enough to cause any impacts to any roadways. So anytime before about 9 a.m., you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. From about 9 to 12, that's when things get a little iffy across a few of those elevated roadways and bridges where they may be shut down for a very brief period of time if there does just happen to get enough icing on it. But for the most part, we're really not expecting this to be a significant event, so you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. I definitely wouldn't advise you to cancel your meeting at this point. Let's see, in our next question from, let's see, how reliable is the European model when forecasting winter weather? I saw a big jump from yesterday morning to this morning. Well, what do you know about the European?
Well, I mean, historically speaking, European has done better than the American model, the GFS model, but honestly, this winter, statistically, there hasn't been a big difference between the two of them. In fact, really, the last couple of years, they've been very similar. So I haven't seen a big issue from one model to the other. The only thing that there may be a difference on would be like the timing of the front coming through, but in terms of temperatures and whatnot, I haven't seen big differences between the two of them. And, in general, the European tends to over forecast the amount of rainfall, but other than that, I haven't noticed any major trends associated with it.
Right. And the one thing that, something we do take into consideration when we're making a forecast, especially, when we see these models kind of jumping back and forth, that kind of gives us the impression that maybe the model doesn't have the best handle on what's going to happen. What we'd like to see is a consistency from model run to model run. Now, you will get on occasion with what we call our off model runs. We'll have a model run at midnight and another one at right around noon. And those models might have the potential to jump dramatically from one extreme to the other. But on our two major model runs, which is 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., that's when the models have all the information that they can possibly have. They'll have all of the upper air soundings, they'll have all the weather observations, and all the information that they can possibly have at those points. And when those models are flip-flopping like that, then that kind of gives us pause, and you think, well, is this really the best model to be using at the time? And so what we try to look for, like I said, is that consistency between one model run and the next, sometimes it's the European, sometimes it's the GFS, sometimes it's another model completely. But that's one of the things that we look at when we're trying to put together a forecast. All right, that's all the questions I have written down. Let me go run over here to our Facebook and Twitter pages and see if anybody else has posted any questions. And if you do have a question, you can post them to our Facebook page or tweet us. It's at NWS Lake Charles, and we can answer it here for you real quick. There's no question. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There is such thing as a dumb internet, though. Let's see. I don't see any other questions here at the moment. At least not on Facebook. Let's check Twitter real quick. Not seeing anything on Twitter at this point either. All right. Well, then I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap up here from the National Weather Service. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and stay safe out there, and definitely stay warm. It's going to be a chilly couple of days. The good news is we should be warming up again by the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be warming up, but the bad news is this wet pattern. We're kind of stuck in it here for probably through the weekend and the early part of next week.
Well, stay warm, stay dry. We'll see y'all soon.